Hello, thank you so much for being here. I'm Soul Song Sage, and the theme of today's reading is transformation. So we will be taking a look at your energy, the energy of your current situation, and just taking a look at what is shifting, or perhaps what needs to shift. There might be changes that you are being encouraged to make. But we will take a look, when we get into the detail, we'll see what direction the reading actually takes. But I do have 3 different groups here that you can choose from. For group number 1, we have 7th Sphere Tarot, and the card I pulled is the King of Cups. For group number 2, we have Tarot of the Divine, and the card I pulled is the Knight of Wands. And for group number 3, we have the Muse Tarot, and the card I pulled is the Knight of Emotions, or the Knight of Cups. So it is interesting that we got all masculine energy for our signifier cards today. If you do not identify as a masculine, no worries. We're not talking about identity here. We're talking about energy. And it does make a lot of sense with the theme of transformation that we got such active, young energy cards for our signifiers today. So if you need another minute to make your decision on which group you feel most called to, go ahead and pause the video because I'm going to go ahead and get started with group number 1. Hello, group number 1. If you chose the King of Cups from the 7th Sphere Tarot, that's a mouthful, but this is going to be your reading. To start off, I want to take a look at the oracle cards I have pre-shuffled. This is going to represent your overall energy or the overall energy of your current situation. And you can use this as an energy check to make sure that you chose the right group and that there is a message for you. So to start, we have moving on. Let's move on from this place we grew attached to. Goodbye. And the keyword is change. Next, we have Pitta. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Next, we have number 17, citrine. We have number 48, porcupine spirit, time for beginner mind. And last, we have number 28, feverfew. So for this group, I am getting a very determined, fiery energy from you guys, which is funny that you chose the King of Cups, because I am getting such a fiery energy from you, from this card in particular, which actually this energy does have associations with both water and fire energy. So super powerful, transformative energy that we're talking about here. But I'm getting that you, whether it is a goal you have, whether it's just how you approach life in general, or if there's like something you're trying to manifest, I'm just getting this like very strong determination from you, which is great. But I'm also getting, well, there's a lot I'm getting. Where do I begin? This card, moving on, like the fact that we got the keyword change for a reading about transformation, part of me feels like saying, like, tell me something I don't already know. But at the same time, this could just be like confirmation that this is like, the topic is matching what, the reading is, the message the reading has. But also I'm getting this emphasis of like being attached to, to whatever it is, like whatever your current situation is, like there's a sense of attachment. And like I said, the determination, that fiery energy is really positive, but with this attachment and also the card about porcupine spirit, the time for beginner mind, I'm getting the sense that maybe you have become sort of like a little, I don't want to say narrow-minded, but just like so focused on what you're doing and the path that you're on that you're maybe like losing track of some other things, or maybe not considering that there's more than one way to go about what it is that you're trying to achieve. Feverfew is really bitter, and it actually, the smell of it keeps pests away, which on the one hand is like great, but maybe there's like a sort of, I mean, well, even with the porcupine with the prickly spikes, it's like maybe you're so fixated on what it is that you're trying to achieve that you're maybe pushing others away, or just like being so focused. It might not be like people in particular that you're like trying to keep at bay, but maybe it's just like your focus, like you're trying to make sure you're not getting distracted and like losing sight of the mission you're on or whatever. But I feel like there's a real need, like if it is sort of like you maybe alienating yourself or just like sort of going into like a hermit mode, just like working, if it's like work related or whatever it is, it's just like maybe not making time for the people in your life that have been supporting you. Maybe it's just like not putting enough time into your relationships. But citrine is a crystal of joy. And there's also that sort of energy with like the porcupine spirit card is like the sort of curiosity of taking things a little bit more lightheartedly and just being able to like enjoy the process, like to not feel like you have to be working towards your dreams every minute of every day. Like there's a need to stop and just enjoy yourself, to find joy, to, to just take a greater interest in the world around you. I'm not really sure how else to like describe that. But like this card talks about needing to, I mean, that card, it also talks about making sure that you have time to play, I think is what it says. But there's a need to make sure that you're keeping those energies balanced. And maybe that is why you were drawn to the King of Cups, was because there's this need to sort of temper that fiery drive of yours. But another interesting aspect of feverfew is that because of its smell or whatever that keeps pests away, it actually has a benefit to other plants that live around it. It helps them grow. And I feel like whatever your drive is, whatever your ambitions are, I feel like there is a desire to help other people. Like I feel like there's a sense of like something greater than yourself, but maybe you like maybe you're getting so focused on that you don't see how slowing down, finding enjoyment in life, like tapping into that energy of joy, and to just like not feel like a sense of urgency so much for what you're working on, that benefits people too. That benefits the people around you as well. So maybe you just have like this like really sort of like disciplined mindset or approach to things that you're really attached to, and you feel like you just got to keep focusing on that and push through, and you'll have time for fun later. Like maybe it's like, I have to achieve this first. But I think that the cards are really saying that this situation is calling for a new perspective, to release your attachment to the way that you're approaching things, or for like maybe you have a certain timeline that you think you need to have your goals accomplished by or whatever. But there's a need to sort of like balance that out. It's not saying don't pursue your dreams. It's not saying that there's anything bad about having like such a passionate drive, but you don't want to get so swept away with your passions that you're not just enjoying life, right? So that is the overall energy I am getting for this group. As always, we can return to the oracle cards as needed as we go through the tarot. But I do want to take a look now. We're going to get a card for what is transforming, the purpose of this transformation, the action you can take to support this change, and any additional guidance. So as always, I'm going to shuffle out all of the tarot cards so that anyone who doesn't want to watch the shuffling can go ahead and skip ahead. But for those of you who are going to stick with me, let's go ahead and start by getting a card to represent what is transforming in your life. That's a lot. Let's go for one card. What is transforming in group number one's life? There it is. We have the Fool in reverse, which seems really counterintuitive. Next, let's get a card for what the purpose of this transformation is. Ooh. So we have the Five of Swords. It initially came reversed, and then it flipped upright when it finally landed on the floor. So I'm not really sure which way to take it, so we'll look at it both ways. Next, let's get a card for what action you should take in order to help encourage this transformation, or to make this transformation as easy and seamless as possible. What action does group number one need to take? Ooh. So we did get two cards. We have the Sun and the Nine of Wands. And last, let's get one card for guidance. We have the Lovers. Okay, so to start off with what is transforming, we have the Fool in reverse. And this feels, like I said, this feels so counterintuitive to think that the Fool being reversed, like upright, you would think that's a sign of transformation, of like new beginnings and whatnot. But instead, it came out in the reverse. And so what I'm getting from this is actually just like, how should I describe it? Like maybe you are so focused on what you are doing that you are being closed-minded. Like this card talks about needing to have a beginner's mind, because like there's just a need to look at things from a new perspective. And maybe there were opportunities that presented themselves to you that maybe you were just like, I don't have time for that. I need to focus on this. I need to get this done, right? So like maybe there was a tendency to, even if it was just something like your friends inviting you out to go do something for fun, like we were talking about, like this need to balance out all of this hard work and the drive and ambition. There needs to be a balance with just enjoying yourself, enjoying life, right? And so maybe there was a tendency in the past to sort of like be closed-minded towards those things because you have something that you like want to accomplish and you don't want to get sidetracked from it. But like, I think that that is what is transforming, is that you're seeing that like, there's not just, like whatever it is, like, even if this is like your greatest life purpose, that's not the only thing to life, right? Like, it's not just one thing, like, by only focusing on one thing at a time in your life, you're closing out a bunch of other possibilities. And so I think that that's what this is talking about, is transforming that narrow mindset. Although like focus and determination are great things, there are times for it, and there are times to take a break and rest, right? There are times to have fun, there's a time and place for everything. And so I think that is really what the message the message is today, is to just like, don't close yourself off to new opportunities because you think you already have like, like your plate is full, like you already have the thing that you're focused on and you don't have time for anything else. That is what's shifting. And the reason it's shifting is because there's a need to be able to walk away from things that are not serving you. The Five of Swords upright talks about, it's about like winning at all cost, right? Even if it means alienating the people around you, even if it means that you have to make hard sacrifices, but it's like winning and like achieving success, but at what cost, really? Like a situation where you lost more than you gained. It's like, well, what was the purpose of that? So I feel like that's what this is talking about. And that's not to say that what you're working on is not meaningful or important, but especially if that is all you are focused on, right? If you are only focused on the one thing, like, it's really easy to like lose your sense of purpose, right? It's like we can sometimes forget why we started something in the first place, because it just becomes like the goal is all that we see, is like we want to cross that finish line no matter what. And if you do that, if that's how you approach, your dreams or your ambitions, whatever it is, when you achieve success, it's going to feel really empty. Because like, if you're not making time for your friends and family or people that are important to you in your life, and you alienate them or isolate yourself to like focus on this thing, it's like you will have no one to share your success with, right? Or if you just are so like, we're such creatures of habit, if you just push yourself to work constantly, once you actually achieve your goal, there's going to be a feeling of emptiness because you've forgotten how to just enjoy existing, like how to just be. Like it's a really like strong sentiment in our society that like hard work is rewarded and like is admirable and all of these things, which to a certain extent is true. But at the same time, that isn't what determines your value as an individual. You don't have to work to earn, like you don't have to work hard in order to earn value as an individual. Like, you have value just by existing. And that's something that's really hard for us to understand, especially because like, if you just think about when you were a kid and you did something good, you were rewarded and like hugged and loved and whatnot. Hopefully, everyone has different upbringings, but for most people, like they were rewarded for being good and then they were punished for being bad. And even though it's like our parents trying their best to teach us right from wrong, it can also develop this sense, like this unconscious belief that in order to be loved, we have to work hard for it, right? I feel like I'm getting slightly off on a tangent here, but like, when you get into such like a routine of working hard and always having some goal that you're trying to achieve, there can easily be this sense of emptiness once you've accomplished it, because then you've lost your purpose, right? You're like, oh no, what now? So that's not to say that what this is doesn't have meaning or isn't significant to you. It's not saying that you shouldn't continue pursuing whatever you have this drive towards. It's simply, reminding you that when that becomes all it is, it becomes the process, the hard work, the effort, the need to achieve more than like what actually inspired you in the first place. And if you forget how to connect with feelings of joy, if you forget how to enjoy simply living your life, then it's not going to be very fulfilling for you, even if you reach success, even if you accomplish it, right? So there's this need, like the purpose of this transformation of being open to new experiences, to the detours. It's okay to get sidetracked sometimes if it's for, good reason, like enjoying yourself. Look at how happy that face is on there. But or spending time with the people you love, or supporting, people who've shown you support in the past. Like all of that is important. So don't think of that as like a distraction from your mission. It's being able to see what serves you and what does not, and being able to walk away from like the unhealthy mindset of like needing to work and achieve all the time in order to like earn respect or whatever. Like that's not what this is about, right? You need to connect to your inner sense of purpose so that you can see what to put your time into and what not to. There needs to be a balance, between your ambitions and simply just enjoying life. So hopefully that makes sense. You need to know when to walk away. You need to know when to take a break. You need to be open to, the spontaneous, spur of the moment chances for enjoying yourself, for, spending time with people you love. It can be very easy to forget how to have fun, forget how to laugh and enjoy yourself. But it is also a very important thing to be able to do. Otherwise, life is just going to only be working yourself to exhaustion to achieve something that doesn't even make you feel happy once you've achieved it. So the action that you need to take in order to encourage this transformation to occur. We have the sun, which I'm sure that no one is surprised to see, but it is also paired with the 9 of Wands, which is, it kind of has the porcupine energy. It kind of has like defenses up, being ready. But it's like, it does also just indicate that, like you've been through a lot. You've seen some battle, you've seen some tough times, but that shouldn't prevent you from being able to enjoy yourself, to have a sense of appreciation for life, and just feeling, just being able to be yourself, to just exist, right? Without doing something constantly, right? For some people, it's really hard for them to just sit and do nothing. I'm one of those people. I get it. It is difficult, but it's also just a really important skill to develop because it helps you be present, right? It helps you not charge ahead. And like, maybe there are times when it's like you are so focused on trying to achieve something that you don't even realize you're like just pushing yourself, trying to move forward, that you don't even realize like, oh wait, I should have been doing it a different way. Like I've done that with like trying to relearn how to use Photoshop. I was just like, oh, I want to get these images cleaned up and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like trying to relearn how to do Photoshop. And I was like pushing myself to, finish these designs. And then I realized that I had done something wrong with my layers. It doesn't matter. I had to redo a bunch of stuff. So it's like, there's also just like a value in not pushing yourself so hard, because like sometimes thinking that you know how you're doing something, like you need to have a new perspective. You need to be open-minded to looking at things from a new perspective, just for efficiency, and so that you don't like waste time and energy, moving in the wrong direction. But that was like a slight tangent there. But what I'm getting from this is that while there is a need to, the sun is a card of success and happiness, but it's also a card about like clarity and authenticity. So I do feel like you need to maybe spend some time just being and being okay, just existing without doing anything. to understand that your worth is not derived from how hard you work or how productive you are, that you have value as a human being just by existing, right? But there is like, the Nine of Wands also talks about boundaries. And so I feel like that's not telling you to abandon whatever you're, like this is not telling you that your ambition is like wrong or like you should give up on it, whatever. It's about having a balance of, like maybe you have too many boundaries set in order to prevent distractions from derailing you from being productive. But instead, you need to have boundaries set on how long and how hard you're working, right? You need to have a balance. And that's what the fact that we got these two cards and they literally match this, like there is a need to make sure that you're not losing that balance between those energies. You need to temper the fiery passion with some nurturing water, the calm waters. And I really feel like that's what I'm getting from guidance too. I am getting the sense of balance, of a need to, have a better sense of discernment. But the Lover's card also talks about choice. So understanding, like maybe you feel like you have no choice, you have to get this done, whatever, but you always have a choice. Whatever you think has to be done by a certain deadline, or it's honestly probably arbitrary, even if it's like for your job and they gave you a deadline, like like there's no need to worry so much about when you get it done, but how you get it done. And it's like more to the point with like my Photoshop fiasco of wasting so many hours on designs that I just ended up having to go back and redo. It's like, if you're pushing yourself too hard, you might have to backtrack and redo things. So it's like, even if you think like the time is of the essence, that is actually all the more reason to make sure that you are getting rest and that you have time for fun, so that you can like go back to your project or, whatever it is with fresh eyes, right? Feeling refreshed. And so you definitely have that choice. Like that choice is yours. If you feel like you don't have a choice and that you just have to push ahead, that is an attachment to, a very narrow perspective. That's why you need to have the beginner's mind, is so that you can see that there is not a sense of urgency in the sense that you think that there is. That actually there's more benefit to you taking a break and allowing yourself to be open to other opportunities and experiences, especially if you do anything creative. Like if this is creative in any way, a variety of experiences and exposure to new ideas, new perspectives, whatever it is that like these new beginnings, these opportunities would be giving you if you didn't close yourself off from them, like that actually can really inspire you and feed your creativity in whatever it is that you're doing. So recognize the choice that you have. Recognize that, like, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's like a lot of the things that we worry about and that we think are really important aren't. And sometimes you have to go through, like for myself, there was a really serious accident. And all of the things I was worried about, all of the things that I thought I needed to do, and that like that sense of urgency that I had, my whole life got put on pause, right? And then I suddenly realized it's like, oh no, people are actually right when like it's become a cliche. So we don't really take it seriously. We're just like, yeah. But it's like once you've been in like a life altering situation, you realize that like, oh, the things that I worried about actually have no consequence. Life just goes on and I'm not doing them. I'm not getting them done. And it is what it is. And, the world does not stop. Things don't fall apart, surprisingly, to those of us who have like such a such a stubborn, narrow-minded view of like those kinds of things. But you definitely have a choice. So take a look at where your boundaries are set, where you can shift things. Like I said, it's not about like abandoning your goals or your dreams or projects, whatever it is that you have this drive towards. It's just about finding a balance, something that is sustainable and something that allows you to actually feel fulfilled when you do reach your goal. Because if you're not feeling fulfilled working on that project, you're not going to feel fulfilled when it's done. Like being fulfilled actually has nothing to do with your external circumstances at all. It's something internal. And I think that that's what this card is really talking about, is that need to be able to connect to a sense of joy, a sense of openness, of just like appreciating life, because that's the only way that you will find fulfillment. And that's honestly will better the outcome of your project. If this is something, like I mentioned, that like can influence other people and have a positive effect on them, it's going to be more effective if you're doing it from a place of emotional fulfillment, right? From a place of joy, not like getting so driven with this need to like work hard and get it done. That's how things lose their, what's the quality I'm looking for? The word, but it loses the inspirational aspect of it, right? Whatever you're working on, it can become sort of sterile and, uninspiring. I don't know how else to describe that, but hopefully you get what I mean. But anyway, with that being said, I do want to go ahead and get a couple of, let's do the affirmations cards, since we have the butterflies for transformation. Let's just get a few of these cards to end us off for any last messages. I suddenly had the thought also about just because like the Rider-Waite has like Adam and Eve, and it can talk about like temptation and like what's motivating you, although that like can easily get more into like the devil energy. But I do want to say, like, part of this, part of the choice of seeing the choice you have in like finding balance and, balancing your work and ambitions with fun and joy and, people you love. I think that part of the perspective that you need to have is to not demonize having fun. It serves a greater purpose than you realize. So I just like, I know that I mentioned sort of like the different perspective of, like the balance between the two, but I feel like suddenly I was just seeing like the serpent around the snake, and Adam and Eve. And it just like made me think that like, maybe you were afraid that like, if you allow yourself to take a break, if you allow yourself to have some fun, that maybe you're going to lose your inspiration and not like lose that drive, and you're going to have a hard time getting back to work. And I think that the opposite is actually true. So don't demonize fun. Don't demonize opportunities to simply just enjoy yourself. Because, like I said, I think that it will have, rather than detracting from your work or what you're trying to accomplish, it's actually going to encourage and like energize, and inspire whatever it is that you're doing. So I just wanted to add that. But anyway, let's get a few of these affirmation cards before my voice goes completely. What are any last messages group number 1 needs to hear? I've been through a lot of changes, but I'm still the same, yet to come. So I feel like that's an interesting one to come out, but I do think that there is like sort of a message here about those of you, like I was saying, that feel the need to accomplish, to achieve success in order to have a sense of self-worth. It's like no matter what you do, you are always you. You can grow, you can develop, you can reach closer to your highest potential, but it's still you. So don't throw yourself into your work, into achieving things, thinking that it's going to make you a different person, or thinking that it can help you run away from who you are or who you were in the past. You are where you are today because of who you were in the past. Even if in past you made mistakes, they learned lessons for you, they gained experience for you, they helped you get to where you are today. So don't try to run away from who you are. And also just don't try to work to achieve respect and self-worth. Those are things that exist already within you. If you don't see that now, then maybe you're working too hard and need to take a break so that you can reconnect with yourself and, find that inner joy and acceptance of yourself. But yeah, I think maybe let's just get one of these cards too to end us off. Oh, where did it go? Oh, to lose your path. Of course, my voice. To lose your path is to find your way. I mean, I feel like that is super fitting for today's message. It's you might see your path. You might be afraid to take the detours. It's going to take you further away from your dreams. But maybe there's also a need for some of you. There's a need to recognize that what's driving you, the path that you're on, isn't even your path. But you've just been barreling ahead because you're trying to achieve success or whatever. But sometimes the detours, sometimes, getting sidetracked is going to lead you to where you're actually supposed to go. So, especially if the path you're on is one that is very clearly paved in front of you, that's because someone else went that way, right? Like if it's your own path, it's not going to be paved. So maybe there's also a need to figure out just simply what brings you joy so that you can know where to direct all of this energy. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I have for you. Hopefully this was helpful. If it resonated or made sense to you, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Don't forget to like or subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in my next one. Hello, group number 2. If you chose the Knight of Wands from the Tarot of the Divine, this is going to be your reading. To start off, I want to take a look at these oracle cards that I have pre-shuffled. This is going to represent your current energy or the energy of your current situation. And you can use this as a sort of energy check to make sure that this is the correct group for you. So to start off, we have my city. There's nothing to boast about, but I can't help but be proud, right? And the keyword is ego. Next, we have Lakshmi. We have number 45, Pyrite. Number 31, Groundhog Spirit, Time to Let Go. And last, we have number 41, Rose. So overall, the energy of this group is really beautiful. To start off with Lakshmi, we have the goddess of abundance, of fortune, prosperity, fertility, also just life force energy. And pyrite is also a stone of abundance. So it sounds like that is the focus of this situation, is it has to do with maybe your finances, with abundance, whether that is health, wealth, like a happy, stable home. Any of those things could apply. But we also have with the rose here, this one is interesting because it actually has a rosary on it. And rosaries were originally made with rose hips. And so this card talks about miracles. I don't know that that's usually what roses are associated with. I've heard them associated with a lot of different things. But they do show up in a lot of different mythologies, like Guadalupe. So maybe that's like where this is getting, where this is coming from, like with the association with the Virgin Mary. But there's like this feeling of like a miracle happening, like some form of abundance wanting to come into your life. The only thing is that there seems to be like, we have this card of time to let go. And so it seems like you're in a situation where in order to accept, in order to receive this abundance, in order to let it come into your life, there's something that you might need to let go of first. And that could be something specific, like in your external situation, like, something to do with where you live or where you work, or, like some aspect of your life. Or it could just be needing to let go of a certain mindset, because we do have the ego card here. And so what I'm getting is like, there are a few different ways that this could play out. But for some of you, there could be this misidentification with wealth and status, like material success, having something to do with like your value. Like, we have the ego here. So it's like somehow a reflection of you. It's like your financial status. Maybe you feel like that somehow determines your self-worth, or, like, I don't know how else to say it, but I feel like you get the idea. So there could be like some sort of ego wounds that need to be overcome in order to receive this abundance. It could just be like feelings of low self-worth. Maybe you don't feel like you are deserving of abundance on some level, even if it's like a deeper unconscious level. It can still be affecting, your situation. There could also be like a negative association with wealth, of like either seeing people who were really well off being very selfish and self-serving and greedy, and maybe even a little deceitful, and in order to get to where they were, or things like that. Or there could be like just a negative association with materialism in general, like if you're more focused on spirituality, or you're religious, like there could be like these negative associations with it. But that could still have an impact on your ego, and how like your sense of self, and like thinking that you need to live a simple life and not be drawn to material things, et cetera, et cetera. And that's still like can cause ego wounds, even though it's like playing out in a different way. I don't know if I'm expressing that well, but it seems like there is something like with your mentality, with your relationship to money. It could just be simply that like you're used to struggling with your finances or debt or something like that, and you've somehow like taken that on as part of your identity without even realizing it. So there's a lot of different ways that this could be playing out, but overall it's like there's this beautiful abundant energy that wants to enter your life, but because of these perceptions, these mindsets that you have, it's sort of preventing that from coming in. And so that might be what you need to let go of. There could, like I said, there could be a call that, like in order to receive this abundance, you might have to make changes to your life, not just your state of mind or your beliefs, in order to bring this abundance in. And so there may be aspects of your life that are going to come to an end, or like simply you're being pushed out of your comfort zone in order to grow, in order to, open yourself up to more possibilities. But I did kind of get sidetracked. So to like return to those of you who have associated your value with your like social status, like financial success, that sort of thing. So obviously there's still an ego wound there of not seeing your own abundant nature, of not seeing your own worth and tying it to instead something outside of yourself. But that's also not to like say that there's anything wrong with wanting greater abundance. It's more of the motivation behind it, right? So if you're pursuing wealth for the sake of, how you think other people are going to view you, that's not, and that could honestly be, if you are struggling with finances, that could honestly be why you might be struggling with finances, is because you are approaching it from the wrong motivation. Like just think simply of like your career path. Like if you've chosen a career that seems like a good, safe bet to be able to make a lot of money and have financial security, like financial security is a great thing to have, but that's not going to be fulfilling. Not only because you've like I said, assigned your sense of self-worth to something outside of yourself, but you're also doing something that like isn't a passion of yours. Like we have the Knight of Wands. So talk about passion, and following your passions, like that is what should be motivating you, is like what you feel called to, regardless of, like there's a lot of misconceptions or like just unhelpful beliefs that have formed in our society that like if you pursue something that you love, you're not going to make money, right? We talk about starving artists, or like things like that. So there's this sort of belief that in order to have financial abundance, we have to work hard and put our desires, our passions aside in order to just focus on making money. And obviously that's not a very fulfilling path. So for some of you, it could just be like the direction that you're trying to go in is not coming from the right place. But that's not to say that you aren't deserving of success and abundance. There's just a need to make sure that like you are being motivated by the right things in order to find the path that will lead you to abundance in a way that is in alignment with you. And part of that, of getting into alignment, is understanding your own self-worth to begin with. So that's what I'm getting overall for the energy of this group. I do want to go ahead now and get into the tarot. So we're going to take a look more specifically about what is transforming, the purpose of this transformation, what action you can take in order to support this transformation, and then any additional guidance. So as always, I will put the timestamp in the video for anyone who does not want to watch the shuffling so that they can skip ahead. For those of you who are going to stick with me, let's go ahead and start by getting a card for what is transforming. So we have the Chariot in reverse. I immediately wanted to start talking about it, and then I just remembered I said that not everyone might be watching this right now. So let's get a card now for the purpose of this transformation. We have the Six of Swords. The action that you can take. Ooh, I thought one of those wanted to come out and then I wasn't sure which one. Oh, I just happened to see this on the bottom of the deck. I'm not going to take this card, but this is Guadalupe. This is the myth about, I don't know, Mary and roses, miracles. I don't actually remember this story, but anyway, what action does group number 2 need to take? The 8 of Coins. And last, message of guidance. Ooh. We have the World. Okay, so to start off with what is transforming, we have the Chariot in the reverse. So I am getting the sense that for a lot of you, you might be feeling like things are at a standstill or things are just not moving in the way that you want them to. On the one hand, for some of you, this could have to do with a sort of lack of willpower or motivation, a hesitation to actually take those steps forward because of uncertainty or doubt. But for others of you, I'm getting the sense that you might feel like you are being pulled in different directions. Like maybe you feel like you are working towards, towards whatever you're trying to achieve, but you're not seeing the progress and you're facing all this resistance. But it could be that you're being pulled in multiple directions. And that makes a lot of sense for what we were talking about for those of you who felt like you need to pursue a safe path in order to achieve financial security, but maybe there's another direction that you feel like you are being pulled in, like that your heart or your soul desires, like something you feel called to on a deep level, but you don't want to go that way. Like you feel a hesitation to do so because there's this fear of not having the financial payoff by going in that direction. Like you are more preoccupied with your finances. And so there's these two conflicting motivations, right? To follow what you think is going to bring you financial success and stability, or to follow where your heart is calling you. And so I think that is what is going to be resolved here. That is what is transforming. I think that part of what you need to let go of is the belief that you can't do what you want to do. You can't do what you're passionate about and also have financial security. So I think that belief needs to, that's like part of what's going to transform, because that's going to help you, be able to align the two directions you feel pulled in, so that you can like actually make forward movement, actually make progress. And you will feel a sense of ease. You're going to feel all of that resistance that you were experiencing. That is going to dissipate. That is going to be resolved. The purpose of this is for you to have, like, I don't know, this card, the Six of Swords, talks a lot about moving into calmer waters. So I feel like by changing those beliefs, by letting go of your fear that pursuing what you love to do or what you feel passionate about, to release the fear that is going to make it difficult for you to achieve financial stability, you're going to feel a greater sense of peace. Things are going to flow much more easily because you're not being pulled in different directions, because you're not letting your fears or any like ego wounds prevent you from moving forward. It's not going to be weighing you down. Generally, there's just going to be a greater sense of ease. There is also a message here of perhaps leaving some things behind. So, more of this this energy of needing to let go. So there may be, like maybe you're at a job that is not emotionally fulfilling to you, but you're trying really hard to, like maybe you are working towards getting a promotion or something, and you're trying to achieve that level of financial security. But maybe the reason you're facing resistance in that area is because it's not where you belong, right? Like there's something that would be more emotionally fulfilling and can bring you that level of abundance that you're wanting. There is also a message with the Pyrite card of needing to trust that your needs are going to be met, especially if you are struggling with your finances at this time. If you're feeling unstable, if you have those worries, that stress, it's really hard to appreciate and have gratitude for the things that you do have in life. And so I think that something else that could be transforming is having a greater sense of trust that, that your needs will be met no matter what. And I think that's part of what this card is also talking about, is like this transformation is going to allow you to realize that, that even pursuing your dreams or, like your passions, even doing so, your needs are still going to be met. There's going to be a sense of peace about your finances. There's not going to be, it's like you're leaving the rough waters behind and opening yourself up to abundance, and so that you literally won't have to worry about your finances so much. But it's this need to get more in alignment with yourself, and part of that is like what we were talking about with like self-worth, and knowing that you are deserving of abundance, but also just like the fact that you are deserving. You're not only deserving of following your passions, but you should. Like that's, that's more likely to be what your purpose in life is, like your higher calling, if you believe in that sort of thing. It isn't just a matter of like being allowed to pursue your interests and your passions. It's like, that's what you should be doing. So hopefully that makes sense. But moving on to action. So we have the 8 of Coins. And so this card is literally like the card of hard work, which, clearly this is being advised that you do work on it, on whatever it is that you are, trying to pursue. But especially if you are perhaps going to try to change directions, change career paths, change your approach, to actually pursue something that you are more passionate about. It might be the case that you don't have the experience at this time. Maybe you are lacking in that because you've been putting all of your energy into trying to create financial stability and trying to be more responsible in that sense, and putting your interests and your passions like sort of off to the side on the back burner, or whatever. You might have to put in some work in order to develop those skills and, like allow your talent to in that area to develop further, to gain that experience by doing. So there is that message. But I did feel like sort of hesitant when this came out, like thinking that it maybe wanted to be reversed. But I tried not to second guess myself. But I do want to say that there is also an important aspect to consider, which is that your sense of worth should not be derived by how hard you work. Put in the work by all means. Don't be afraid to take the first steps towards, your dreams, towards your passions. Put in the work, but don't forget that that isn't what determines whether you are deserving or not of abundance. So that's all. I just wanted to add that a little bit. But yeah, there's definitely a need to focus on what it is that you're trying to achieve. Focus on, like honing your craft, that sort of thing. And you will be able to do that if you stop allowing yourself to be pulled in different directions. Just focus on the thing that you want to do. Focus on where you're trying to like go instead of getting distracted by, like your worries and, financial anxieties, anything like that you might have. But allow yourself to pursue those things that you're interested in. I feel like that one was pretty straightforward. So I'm going to move it on to guidance. We have the World. So again, we have, like a card of endings, really. So there may be, like this time to let go and the Six of Swords. There may be certain things that are going to be leaving your life. A chapter is coming to a close, and I feel like you really need to open yourself up to embracing that instead of resisting any endings that are happening in your life. But at the same time, I'm also getting like a sense of wholeness, a sense of, like feeling whole within yourself, a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just really having a better understanding of who you are, of appreciating yourself, of knowing yourself and appreciating, accepting yourself, and really understanding that like you are whole. You are perfect and complete, regardless of what your external circumstances would indicate to others, right? Your financial status, your social like ideas of success, those things do not reflect your value as an individual. So I feel like there's this need to appreciate yourself, but also just understand that you're not lacking in any way. But also with this, what I was saying earlier about pyrite, having that sort of message of also like needing to have gratitude for the things that are in your life already, for what you have, for the, any safety, security, family and friends, like any support that you have, like to actually really see that abundance and to see that your life is complete. So on both an internal and external level, there's like this need to just sort of appreciate and accept that everything is as it should be. And that doesn't mean that like if you're struggling financially, like just accept that because that's how it's always going to be. It's more the message of like, don't worry about your needs being met. Understand that like where you are now is where you are now, and that's where you're supposed to be. But that doesn't mean that like you're not going to achieve financial security or success, abundance, whatever in the future. But in order to open yourself up to that, there needs to be a feeling of abundance already, of appreciating and having gratitude for the things that you do have. I hope that makes sense. But I'm sort of getting like, I don't know, like I just like I don't remember who said this sort of example, but it's like, I don't know, like say there's like some teenage kid once is like asking his dad for a new car because he just has an old junker and it's, constantly needing this and that and whatever. But it's sort of like, because it's old, he doesn't appreciate it and therefore he doesn't take care of it. And from his dad's perspective, he's like, well, if you're not taking care of that, why would I get you an even nicer car so that you can not take care of that one? Like, so I don't know, like that's a sort of weird example to use for this, but I feel like that kind of has, like a similar sort of feel with ideas of abundance and gratitude. By having gratitude for what's in your life now, it's sort of like keeping you in practice to appreciate things that could come in the future. But if you're not appreciating what you have, you actually aren't going to appreciate what comes in the future. Like maybe you think, oh, well, I would have less financial worries. But like a lot of people who have more money, have more responsibilities and more things to worry about with their finances, then, you know, like, I'm not there myself, but like, but a lot of times, well, especially people who have more money end up spending more money and getting more expensive houses and have higher mortgages, or, you know, like whatever, like it can get complicated like that. But the point is, if you can appreciate what you have, and how should I say, it's like understanding the real value of things, understanding that like money does not provide you with self-worth or value as an individual, that it doesn't make all of your problems go away, but that it is something that is a useful resource that can help you have a more stable, secure feeling, you know, like secure, stable life for yourself. So it's not to say that like money is bad, but if you're approaching it in the sense that like you're expecting to get more out of it than what it can offer, then I feel like that's a hindrance to you actually welcoming abundance into your life, if that makes sense. Understanding your own value and self-worth, even when you're broke, even when you're in debt, understanding that you have value as an individual simply by nature of your existence, can help you have a healthier relationship to money, to treat it as a resource instead of as part of your ego attachment, part of like how you identify yourself. You know, like there's a difference in a difference of approach, right? One is healthy, one is not. So I don't know. I hope that makes sense. There's just this need for seeing like a sense of wholeness in your life and within yourself, in order to attract more abundance into your life. So to end us off, I want to get a few of these lyric cards. I wanted to do the butterfly deck since we're talking about transformation here. But just for any last messages group number 2 needs to hear. Whatever, I'm good. And I know these trials I face. I know I'll overcome them. So definitely a need to understand, like, I mean, also just like your own sense of strength, your inner fortitude, you know, understanding how strong you are. A bird just flew and landed on the windowsill and is looking at me. Hi, buddy. What are you doing? Oh, he's gone. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. But yeah, so just understanding your own resilience, your own strength, just your inner qualities, I feel like is important in order to get through this, but it could also be literally like the purpose of this, whatever struggle you are experiencing. It could literally be a lesson for you to understand how strong you are, to have a better sense of like just your own, what's the word I'm looking for? Just your own sense of stability, of knowing that like if you're good, it's not a matter of what's going on outside. It's not your external situation. It's nothing outside of you. When you are good internally, when you are in alignment with yourself, when you are grounded in who you are, then the external situation does not matter. It does not have to influence you one way or another, because you know you're good no matter what. I hope that makes sense. So, you know, like if you're having a hard time, you know, with the worries and anxieties, or just feeling a lack of stability in any sense of the word, you know, you might want to try doing some meditation. If that's not your thing, then maybe do something a little more physical, like going for a walk, just feeling your feet planted firmly on the ground. Or, if that's not possible for you, then like just feeling like appreciating the security of the chair you're sitting on, or, like whatever is supporting you, just sort of like reflecting on that and feeling that sense of grounding. I feel like that is something that could help you move through this with a little bit more, reassurance, is, to learn to have faith in yourself, to trust that things are going to work out, but also just have faith in, like in your ability to get through difficult periods. Sometimes it's, helpful to think, I don't think dwelling on the past is is a really good thing, but like sometimes it's helpful to think about like the challenging situations we were in the past can sort of like help remind you, like, oh, I was able to get through that. I was able to get through this ridiculous situation, or I was able to get through that hard time. And just like to sort of like reassure yourself, to remind yourself of how strong you are and how capable you are of moving through difficult periods of your life. But yeah, overall, it's just like a change of mentality, getting more in alignment with who you are, understanding your self-worth and value as an individual, and just understanding that you are worthy of abundance. And that will help you be able to attract it into your life, to open yourself up to receiving it. So I hope that this was helpful. If it resonated or made sense to you, even, if it does, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, don't forget to like or subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in my next one. Hello, group number 3. If you chose the Knight of Cups, or Knight of Emotions in this deck from the Muse Tarot, then this is going to be your reading. To start off, I want to take a look at the oracle cards that I have pre-shuffled. This is going to represent your current energy, the energy of your situation, and you can use it as an energy check to make sure that this is the correct reading for you. So to get started, we have disease. Is it the world that's sick, or is it me? Or is it simply a matter of interpretation from different perspectives? And the key word is perspective. Next, we have Satya. We have number 42, Petalite. We have, number 42, Otter Spirit. You are never alone. Is that right? You're both 42. Okay, that's cool. You are never alone. And we have number 43, Alder. Okay, so overall, the energy that I am getting from this group is that you may feel a bit of conflict. This could be within a relationship of yours, or it could just be a feeling of like sort of being overwhelmed by the world, by, like current events, by what's going on. I'm getting the sense, like, especially with the fact that you chose the Knight of Cups, you could be an empath. You could be really sensitive to other people's moods, their energy, things like that. But I am getting the sense that like there's this sense of conflict on some level of, like I said, whether it's like just being upset by current events, by what you're seeing on the news, of, what you're, the mentalities and beliefs that are, like put forth in society in general. Or it could be like with, like I said, with a person or different relationships in your life, that might be just overwhelming you. We have Alder here, which was actually used to make gunpowder and explosives. And there was even a belief that it could cause heated arguments. So I'm getting the sense that it's like really important not to be so reactive to what other people say or what you're seeing happening in the world around you. This card right here, Petalite, it talks about the need to emotionally detach yourself from the situation, from like the whatever the situation is. There's a need to emotionally detach yourself and observe. And the key thing is that it isn't about trying to change your external surroundings. It's not about trying to change the people in your life or to change the world. It's just observing. It's just taking a step back and not taking things so personally. There's a need to sort of detach yourself from whatever the situation is that you're currently in. And I feel like that's an important thing to remember. Like, say if it is a particular relationship, like someone in your life, whatever form that relationship takes, like this otter spirit card is making me feel like for some of you, there's like an actual relationship of some kind that this could be referring to. And it might not even be that the relationship that this is referring to is having a problem or you're at odds with this person. It could literally be like, if you are really sensitive, it could just be like taking on the emotions of, like the emotional consequence of the situations of the people around you. It could be something like that, where, like if a friend comes to you and they're having a hard time and they want to talk to you and things like that, like maybe you're feeling like this need of solving their problems for them, of making it all better. And that is like a really common tendency for some people, is like if someone comes to them and they're upset and they want to talk about it, they feel like they need to offer a solution. I am guilty of this myself. It's like the need to want to like make everything all better because you don't like seeing, the people you care about having a hard time. But the thing is, like, the reason we get that urge to fix things, to have a solution, it's actually comes from a discomfort and just sitting in the presence of other people's emotions. And if you are an empath and you are really sensitive to other people's emotions, like, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable because you're feeling all of that. But the important thing to remember is that sometimes, like if a friend is coming to you, or like whoever, but if someone's coming to you to talk about a problem they're having or something they're going through, like it's really important to just be there, to let them talk, to give them an ear, to allow them the opportunity to be heard, just to express what it is that they're going through. Because like I will say all the time that in order to let go of your emotions, instead of repressing or suppressing them, whether it's conscious or not, the important thing is to allow yourself to feel them. But then when a friend comes to me and they're upset, I always want to try and offer them a different perspective of looking at things, like that's going to make their emotions go away. And I have to remind myself, it's like, just let them feel what they're feeling. Be there with them to support them by all means, but allow them that time. Like that's important time for them to feel and process their emotions so that they can let them go, so that they don't weigh them down. But for those of you who do have, like, it's not so much like what I was just talking about, but maybe you actually are having conflict with a person in your life, there's actually also a message here to, to still detach, to not take things personally, so that you can observe the situation and really learn from it, because there seems to be a lesson there. But also, like, this card can talk about learning from other people, from other perspectives, and so that's not to say that, like, if you have different political beliefs with someone, that listen to them because they're actually right. It's not about that. It's not about who's right or wrong, but it's about broadening your perspective, of not being narrow-minded and like to consider things from another perspective. It might not change your like overall belief, but it can like help you just sort of like redefine, like sort of tweak and like strengthen your views to be more, I guess, inclusive in a way. Like, but just to understand that, like, you know, there are aspects that, you know, like we might feel strongly about, you know, something, but then when we hear from another perspective, we can see like, oh, well, there's more gray areas, you know, things aren't necessarily always black and white, you know, there's shades of gray, things like that. But for some of you, I am getting that, like, even if there are certain relationships in your life that this might apply to, I am also getting that for many of you, you have like this sort of this sense of being overwhelmed, let's say, by what's going on in the world around you, whether it's like you watching the news, staying up on current events, you know, different things like that. But like there is this feeling of like, is the world sick? Am I the only sane person on this planet? That sort of thing. And it can really make you feel like you are alone when, especially if like a lot of people in your life have different political views than you, or like, you know, whatever it is, it can feel very alienating. It can make you feel like you are alone, like you are isolated. Even when you're surrounded by people, it's like feeling like no one gets you, no one understands your perspective. But I really feel like that is what this card, Satya, my pronunciation might not be great of that, but this card is about truthfulness, but not just truthfulness. Like this card specifically talks about like taking off the mask of seeing where you're being inauthentic, or seeing how society's views or conditioning have like influenced you, to really strip all of that away and to reconnect with who you truly are, so that you can live authentically, so that you can live in alignment, so that you can realize whether your relationships are in alignment with you or not. But this is really a card about like personal truth, of understanding your personal truth. But the important thing to recognize is that it's not about taking your personal truth and making others around you accept it as truth. It's not about trying to change the people in your life. It's not about trying to change the world. It's about practicing a sense of detachment from your surroundings, from your external reality, so that you can connect to this inner truth that and your sense of self, really. So that can be like a really difficult thing for a lot of people to do, especially when they are sensitive and have a lot of compassion for other people. When they see suffering in the world, they want to do something about it. That is natural. But the thing is, like on the one hand, you can't create any sort of change without accepting it first. Like if you're resisting the way things are, it's more of like really like being in denial. But also, you don't actually change. You can't actually change your surroundings or people. You can't make someone be more compassionate. You can't make someone care about stuff. You know, like a lot of times people have this misconception that, you know, like this person just doesn't know, like they just need to give them a rational argument for them to see things their way. But it really doesn't work that way. But like the encouraging aspect of this, there is an encouraging aspect of this, I believe, is that you create the biggest change in your world, in, you know, like in your community, in your surroundings, whatever it is. You create the biggest change by doing this, by connecting to who you really are, by stripping away all of the false beliefs, false stories, you know, narratives, whatever, and just returning to who you are, reconnecting with your truest self and living authentically. But also by not being reactive, by practicing detachment. Like people respond better to that. People are more open-minded, but also it's just like spreading a greater sense of peace, being at peace within yourself, brings a feeling of peace to those around you. Like this card talks about, like maybe there are some relationships in your life that aren't serving you and aren't in alignment with you. So, you know, that is something to consider, but you have the greatest impact on on creating positive change in your surroundings by focusing on yourself and creating the positive change. You know, like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You know, like it's pretty simple. And I honestly think that would be have a bigger effect on one's community, or, you know, the world, is like for people to approach it from a place of peace, right? If you're trying to put an end to war or to violence or to injustice and all of these things, then it's like you don't want to go in with a fighter's mentality, because you know, like that seems, it's really counterintuitive, really. Or it seems like contradictory, right? So I don't know if that was a bit of a tangent, but I feel like maybe that's something that you might need to like consider, how rather than trying to change the world, rather than trying to change the situation of your friend, rather than trying to change people you are in conflict with, it's just a matter of detachment and observing, so that you can connect to your truth without being, you know, influenced by these other negative energies. And in turn, that's actually going to have a more positive effect on your surroundings, because you are a source of peace, of like energetic peace, right? You're not stoking the fire. You're not causing more conflict by being reactive. So yeah, I hope that makes sense, but that is the sense I'm getting here, is just like sort of like being affected by like negative or lower vibrations, negative energy, lower vibrations, and needing to be able to just pull your energy back, pull back a little bit, and just observe with detachment without getting so emotional about it. And you'll be able to see the situation more clearly, and to not let it take away from your sense of what you know to be true, like deep within. So I want to go ahead and get into the tarot now. We're going to take a look at what in particular is transforming, the purpose of this transformation, what action you can take to support it, and any additional guidance. So I am going to shuffle out all 4 cards, so I will put the timestamp in case you want to skip over that part. For those of you who are going to stick with me, let's go ahead and start by getting a card for what is transforming, or what needs to transform. Well, this one literally fell in my lap. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so we have the 5 of Cups in reverse, and we have the 9 of Materials, or the 9 of Coins, Pentacles. So next, let's get a card for what the purpose also fell in my lap. We have the 5 of Pentacles in reverse. What action you should take. What action should group number 3 be taking to support this? Okay, so we have the Muse of Materials, which is the King of Pentacles, and the Queen of Pentacles. So King and Queen. And last, what additional guidance there is. We have the Three of Wands in reverse. Okay, so to start us off with what is transforming, we have the Five of Cups in reverse, and we also have the Nine of Materials or Pentacles. So this card is a card of disappointment. And it's interesting. Is she holding? For a moment, I thought she was holding the world, but it looks like maybe she's holding the moon. But anyway, it's a card of disappointment. And a lot of people talk about how, you know, the figure in the Rider-Waite is like staring at the three toppled cups and doesn't see the two full cups behind them. And it's like they're only focusing on what went wrong and not, or, you know, like, or what they lost, and not focusing on what they still have or the things that are going right. So it has like a sense of having a pessimistic attitude, which I do think applies here. It's like that sort of negative viewpoint needs to shift, and like that is what is transforming. But at the same time, I always feel like it's important to remember that, like, it is okay to allow yourself to feel, you know, your disappointment. It's not to forget about the two cups behind you, but to give the proper time to grieve the three that got toppled over. So it's not about denying those emotions, but there is a need to transform this sort of pessimistic outlook, and to appreciate more fully the abundance that exists in life, to allow yourself to enjoy the luxuries. Like, for some reason, like, this is a weird example maybe, but for some reason this was making me think of, like, I know that some people, especially those who are like well informed and stay up on the news, like, I do know that there is a tendency for some people to feel guilty to feel guilty about not struggling when they see others suffering in the world. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but, like, you know, someone was like hearing about, you know, a news story in Gaza, and, you know, people losing their homes and loved ones, and, you know, not being able to get the food or medical supplies they need, things like that. But, you know, like, compassion is a positive thing, you know, empathy is a positive thing. But instead of like seeing how, you know, horrible and ugly life can be, instead of having a greater appreciation for their safety, for their home, for their access to medical care when they need it, you know, instead of having a greater appreciation of those things, it caused them to feel guilty for having them. Like, I don't know if that makes sense to you, or if you have come across people who have that tendency. And I think it is, you know, it comes from being really sensitive and having a lot of empathy for others, which is a beautiful thing. But, like, what a waste to have security, to have a home, and to not appreciate it because you feel like, because not everyone else has that you don't deserve to. You know, like, it's a more complicated situation, but that's kind of like the feeling I'm getting from this, is there's a need to, instead of like, you know, instead of seeing the, you know, like, what's going on in the world around you, or the problems that, you know, people close to you are struggling with, instead of having a greater appreciation that, you know, you have positive things and stability in your life, you're taking it for granted. And, like, that doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help people who have lost their homes have a place to live, like that. You're not helping anyone, and instead you're just taking things for granted. So it's weird that I feel like this is getting slightly political, but like, I feel like it's not a good use of your empathy and compassion for other people if it is causing you to take for granted what you have. And there, like, although everyone deserves shelter and food and medical care, and not everyone gets it, like, the fact that some people don't get those things that they deserve does not mean that you are any less deserving of them, right? Like, I don't know, I feel like this is a sort of delicate topic of conversation, but there's a need, like, what is transforming and what needs to change is for you to be able to not have such a negative perspective on life, and to be able to see and appreciate the positive things in life. And this is not to say that you shouldn't be informed. This isn't to say stop reading the news, but I mean, if you're not in a place where you're emotionally stable and strong enough to do so, then maybe you should take a break. But there's a need to practice a bit more detachment in order for you to get rid of this this belief of just, I'm feeling just like this is lack mentality, right? And it's not just like, I'm not getting just the sense of like financial resources, but just like a lack of abundance and good things in life. Like, those things, even though tragedies occur every day, there are still positive things that happen as well, but you need to shift your perspective in order to see them, in order to appreciate them. So the purpose of this transformation is so that you can get out of that lack mentality. There's also just like, in the sense of, just feeling like there is goodness in the world, that there is, love and compassion exist, that people can support each other and help one another. There's a need to recognize those aspects, because what you focus on, what you put energy towards, it affects not only your energy, but your surroundings as well. If like I said, if you're not in a stable enough place, if you don't have a good handle on your emotions, and you sit there and watch horrific news all day, and then you go to work and you're feeling grumpy because you're overwhelmed by the problems of the world, you're actually spreading more negativity. So it's important to be practicing that detachment, so that if you want to stay informed, you can also make sure that you're not spreading that negativity further, right? That you're not being reactive to the things that you're seeing, because it's not helping you, it's not improving your life any. But if you can start to see that there is good in the world too, that not everyone is evil and horrible, and that despite tragedies that occur every day, like, there's also really positive things that happen as well. And what you want to do is, spread like positive energy, so that you can have a more positive influence in your surroundings, if that makes sense. I know that there's probably going to be a lot of people who are like, yeah, well, having a positive attitude isn't saving people who are being killed right now, or who are, experiencing hardship. That's not helping. But like, I think that a lot of people underestimate the power of vibration, of energy, of how, even if you just think about how easy it is for bad moods to spread, like the grumpy person, like, you could be having a great day, and then you come across a grumpy, rude person, and then suddenly, like, your mood changes. It's like, instead of allowing that person, the grumpy person, to affect you, so that you start spreading grumpy energy to the people around you, like, have enough detachment to not take it personally, and to not be reactive and add more fuel to the fire, and you be the person to stop the grumpiness from Like, I feel like, I didn't explain that very well, but hopefully that makes sense to you. I don't want to go on too long of a tangent to explain something like that. It's sort of a silly example, but there really is a strong impact, especially if you are sensitive. You should have you should have an understanding of how energy and frequency, vibration, whatever, like how that affects people around you if you are sensitive to it yourself. So just think about like what kind of energy do you want to spread? You don't want to spread a negative outlook. You don't want to spread feelings of lack, of like coldness and hardship, like that sort of low vibrational energy. You want to be spreading abundant, loving, peaceful, compassionate energy, right? Like, so just think about it in that sense. And you need to develop that skill of detachment so that you can connect to your inner truth, so that you're not swayed by the crap you see in the news or on the headlines, or like other people around you, the conversations around you, whatever it is. You have to build up that skill of being able to detach yourself emotionally, so that you don't add to the negativity that already exists. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, just getting away from that mentality, the perspective, shifting that perspective of the world being a cold, dark, painful place of suffering, right? Needing to shift your perspective to just not have such a bleak outlook on life, on the world. Yeah, but anyway, moving on to what action you can take to support this transformation. It's interesting that we've got both the Muse, the King, and the Queen of Pentacles. So clearly, like, Pentacles, it is earth element. So there is definitely a need for grounding. And so and I'm feeling like the grounding is necessary so that you don't get swayed by all of the negativity you are surrounded with, so that you don't get affected by it, so you don't let it allow you to lose your sense of truth, your personal truth, and your sense of who you are, or to sway your behavior in acting inauthentically. But to just stay grounded is really the message I'm getting here. But since we got both the King and the Queen, we have masculine and feminine energy here. I think that the point is that there still needs to be a balance. Like, the Queens are very nurturing, they're very caring, charitable for the Queen of Pentacles. So generous and charitable and nurturing, all those things. But to have a balance with that, of maintaining a sense of stability, so that you don't get swept away with other people's problems or the problems of the world, of other people's emotions, and taking it on as your own. So that's what I'm getting here, is like a need for grounding, but not to be, not saying to be cold, not saying to like stop caring about what happens to other people, not to get rid of your empathy, but to just maintain your sense of stability while you are being caring. Like there needs to be a balance there. I feel like I said the same thing twice, and I still don't feel like I expressed it well enough, but I don't know how else to say it. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Hopefully you get a sense for what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, last we have, for additional guidance, we have the Three of Wands. Excuse me, the Three of Wands in reverse. And what I'm getting from this card is really a sense of like of not taking on other people's problems as your own, of not trying to achieve world peace, of not trying to take on problems bigger than bigger than what you can handle. I'm getting that because the Three of Wands upright talks about expansion, of like seeing, you know, the vast horizons and expanding and all of that stuff. There's like a sense of ambition, and it's like, you don't need to try to play it so big, right? Worry about you. Start with you, because that's really the only control you have over anything in this life, is yourself. But that's also a really positive way to have a positive influence. You get what I mean. It's really redundant. But that is the best way to have a positive influence, is to start with yourself. But also the Three of Wands can talk about support. And so I am feeling like maybe there's a need to allow yourself to be supported too, if that makes sense. Like maybe you feel like you are alone, and like you take on other people's problems because you are so empathetic and caring that you want to help others, but maybe you're not allowing yourself to be supported in the same way, if that makes sense. And I think that that's a really important thing, is like, who takes care of the caretaker, right? You need to allow yourself to be supported by others, to recognize that you're not alone, even when things seem bleak, even when it seems like the whole world has gone mad. Like, you need to recognize that that is just a result of you getting overwhelmed by the negative things that you are seeing in the world. But in shifting your perspective, you can allow yourself to see that is not an accurate picture of the world overall, of society overall, of life overall. And just to know that there are people who can support you as well. That's mostly what I'm getting from that. But let me think. Yeah, there's just like a need to not feel like it's you against the world, to not view others as being all, you know, selfish and and greedy or harmful, hurtful to others. There's just a need to not be so suspicious or to think the worst of other people. And also, I'm also getting like a message about not being too hasty, about not being so reactive to, you know, the negative energy that comes your way, or to just assume the worst, right? But again, it's like, keep going back to it, but of like taking a step back to just observe instead of trying to change or control or influence. Stepping back so that you can just stay connected to your own personal truth. Okay, so to end us off, I just want to get a few of these lyric cards for any last messages. The whole world is my home. I feel like that seems like maybe you already feel that way. Like, if you have like a sense of responsibility of what's going on in the world around you. But I always get the message from this card actually of being at home within yourself, of when you can connect to who you truly are and have that strong sense of being grounded in yourself, that your external circumstances don't actually matter as much. It doesn't matter where you are at home because you are at home within yourself. So that's the message I usually get from that card. I think I want to get one of these cards now. Ooh, it fell on the floor. We have, when winter's over, spring will come again. So getting out of that tough winter of feeling like everything looks bleak and is cold, the world is cold and uninviting. You might feel like, you know, the world is making you feel like you are in an endless winter. You know, Chronicles of Narnia just popped up in my head, eternal winter or whatever. But there's really just there needs to be a shift in mentality of understanding that the world is not as bleak and cold as you believe it to be. So allow yourself to also just open up in order to see like the abundance, the love, the peace that also exists. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this made sense. Leave me a comment if it resonated. If you have anything to share, I would love to hear it. Otherwise, don't forget to like or subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in my next one.